ever wanted to be a pilot, or if you want to be a pilot in United Kingdom, we're going to discuss in this video how and what it takes for your childhood dream when you were 6 saying, "Mommy, I want to fly planes," and crash in the sea. And all these mummies and daddies watching their little Johnny crawling on the floor, "Mommy," want to take them to Dubai for a free trip as a pilot. We're going to discuss what it takes and what you can do to be a pilot in the United Kingdom. So before even you start your journey, the first thing I would recommend and utmost important is to book a trial lesson. And how you can book a trial lesson is go on Google, tick, and find the nearest flying club. And I'm sure wherever you are in the world, you will find few flying clubs that offers you a trial lesson, and you can see whether you got a potential to even fly. It will give you advantage of to any questions you got, or that you want to know, or you want to check your potential as to whether this is something for you want to pursue for your career. Even if you want to fly, some people they ask me is do they want to ride a helicopter. So by all means you can book a trial flight with any local club, and you can ask them questions as to if you want to do PPL in H or PPL in aeroplanes before even you start paying or going to uni or paying a lot of money in advance before you even start your career. So let's, without wasting time, jump into the first step, and that is PPL. The PPL stands for Private Pilot License, and that is the license you require before you even start your career in the civil aviation. And that is the license you need for helicopters and aeroplanes. There's another license that is LAPL, that is introduced by European Union Aviation Safety, which is cost effective but is not as good as to PPL, Private Pilot License, where you can fly the single piston engines around the world, as compared to LAPL, where you are restricted to only territory of Europe. The first step, every pilot has to obtain this license before even if they look their journey to be a commercial pilot. And we will discuss in this video how long it takes you to obtain a private pilot license, what's the cost, and what are the caveats in overall journey when you obtain your private pilot license. Before we go on to the cost of private pilot license, let's ask this question to Google Daddy. Here is the answer to Google Daddy. In 45 hours you can obtain a license and you can fly a plane, and it costs you around 9,000 to 10,000 pounds. But in my opinion, these figures are not realistic, and trust me, they are not. As when it comes to flying in actual, it does take a lot, and probably in the region of 60 hours to 70 hours, unless you are very competent and a Superman, you might do it in 50 hours. No way around in 45 hours. And the cost is in the region of, depends on how consistent you are flying, if you have an installment package arranged with the flying club, or you are pay as you go plan. And it's also, if you are not consistent in flying, you might have to take more flights than it is required, because sometimes you forget things what you have learned in the flying, and then you have to take the longer period or longer flights to rewind yourself. And the another thing is the weather. If the flying weather is not pleasant, you cannot fly under the VFR, visual flight rules, as you are not allowed like commercial pilots under IFR, instrument flight rules. And if you cannot fly that often, it does take you longer than what is required. So if you are planning to complete your course in 6 months, if the weather is not pleasant, then we cannot fly. So there are 9 exams which you expect in PPL, and those are: first exam you expect is the aviation law, the second one is operational procedures, the third one is human performance and limitations, the fourth is communications, the fifth is navigation and radio aids, the sixth is flight performance and planning, the seventh is principles of flight, the 8th is meteorology, and 9 is aircraft general knowledge. Before you even attempt your theoretical exams, I will recommend you to get your class 1 or class 2 medical. It is recommended to do class 2 medical at this stage because it lasts for 62 months if you are less than 40, and if you are above 40 it lasts for 24 months. However, if you do class 1 medical just because you are pursuing your career as a commercial pilot in the future anyway, or you wanted to do to ATPL, the medical for class 1 lasts only for 12 months. So bear in mind, if you want to do pay as you go or slow journey towards your PPL, you will lose that medical and you have to redo it again. The basic requirements for PPL is you have to be at least 17 years of age. 45 hours are the minimum requirement to pass the license, and then in which you need 25 hours of dual flight instruction and 10 hours of solo flight, which will be observed by your instructor. And then the last thing is the QXC, which is the cross-country flight, which is you have to do minimum 150 nautical miles. Another thing that is really important that can be in your budget when you are doing your PPL is what equipments you need, and sometimes you need equipments as to your needs. Last but not the least, you have to do after your theoretical exams is the radio traffic exam, and then the last one is the practical test, where the instructor will examine you as to your flying operations, and once you pass that you will get a PPL private pilot license. Now we will come to is how much it costs you to finish your PPL. Like I said before, it completely depends on how consistent you are in flying and how you catch up with things. Another major factor to cut off your cost is which plane you are getting your training on. It's Cessna 152, Cessna 172 or PA-28. PA-28s are a little bit big roomy. If you are big in size, you definitely prefer to go on PA-28, but bear in mind the cost of PA-28 is more. Also bear in mind there are fees like as to landing fees, to when you do circuits, touch and go, even to sometimes you have to hire a plane, and the fuel charges and the rental prices are different. And also bear in mind when you are doing your practical test, you will be renting a plane, so the fees of the practical exam skill test is separate as to the rental of the plane. So these all prices, if you calculate, technically it will be in the region of 15,000 to 20,000 pound. Another thing you have to consider is whether you want to go through a ground school. If you need a ground school, then you have to pay additional cost towards it. Another important thing is these are only direct cost towards your license. You have to also bear in mind you're commuting to airport every day or whenever you got your training course, and your beverages as to your drinks, and your commuting back from where you are, how far the airport is. These are the factors that can add additional cost towards your fuel. So once you pass your PPL, what you can do, that's the first and last question everyone wants to know. I would say you can be a flying instructor, you can pursue yourself onto night rating, to IR rating, to advance yourself onto IFR, in instrument flight rating, or you can go for MEP, or you can go for CPL, commercial pilot license, or you can go for air transport pilot license. So if you really want yourself to be into the civil aviation career, you can by all means first get your PPL and you can pursue your career as a commercial pilot.